I'll go first. I'll go first. The fifth one on my list, there was a lot of competition for that fifth spot, but the one I eventually went with was Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. I loved the naturalistic look of the film, the naturalistic way. I love the idea of this woman just living a normal life. And I think Ellen Burstyn is great in that role. You get to see her develop and grow and actually mature and change as a person.
This
I
is the
like the fact
Scorsese
that
one.
that Martin Scorsese, who usually directs a lot of men, made this story about a woman. And I thought you could kind of see him finding his style with some shots are very epic, almost like they belong in Ben-Hur, and other shots are still very intimate. And so it kind of was a nice blend of styles. I really enjoyed this film, and again, I loved her relationship with Chris Christopherson and who was her other boyfriend? His name escapes me. Again, I enjoyed the normalness and the ordinariness of this, and that he had the gut that Scorsese had the guts to say this is just a normal woman, and I'm going to depict her living her life and doing the best she can to raise her child, and I liked that. Death by Hanging is a 1968 Japanese film. It was such a great satire. I was laughing from end to end. If either of you guys, any of you guys have ever read Franz Kafka, he does a lot of satires that are about bureaucracy gone amok, and that's what this this film is. There's an execution that happens at the beginning, a death by hanging, but the hanging fails, and because of the rules of the country that this film is set in, they can't hang him again until he is retried for his crimes. But the problem is because he's been hung, he developed amnesia. So he doesn't remember the crimes that he committed, which means he can't confess to them again, which means he can't be tried and executed them. So they have to go through this really elaborate place where they get people off the street to show him how he killed these people, and they have to re-murder these people in the way that he murdered them initially to trigger his memory so that way they can convict him again. And um and it's just really funny. It's really absurd and really funny because again, you notice halfway through the film that he doesn't remember anything. So it's everyone else telling him, oh, you're this awful person, or you obviously did this, or you obviously found her attractive and whatever, and you're like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's just walking and all this absurd stuff is happening. So super super funny. The Brutalist was number three for me. I thought it was a really, again, epic film in so many ways about Adrian Brody's character. I love the music in this film. I love that Brady Corbett had the guts to make an epic film that's 3.5 hours long, and that especially in the beginning, there's this. It kind of feels very, again, a lot of wide shots, a lot of big shots, a lot of him moving from coast to coast, and then it does kind of go into this more intimate portrait of Adrian Brody, and I think it was Felicity Jones who played his wife. I can't remember. Um, and I loved it. It was an epic film on every level, and I very much enjoyed it. Wendy comes in at number two, and this is the one that I'm gonna become its champion because I feel like it kind of slid under everyone's radar. And it's the same director who did a film many years ago called wow, it was just in my head, Breath of the Southern Wild, I think it was, or something like that.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and that was
Beast.
and the one thing I loved about Wendy is that it's kind of a reimagining of Peter Pan, but he has a very poetic style to it. It's Peter Pan set in the South, and it becomes this beautiful meditation on what it means to choose to grow up and what it means to choose to kind of shed your past self and embrace growing up. Peter in this film is someone who is afraid of growing up. He doesn't like being a kid, but he doesn't like to change, and that's his problem. He doesn't want to embrace any kind of movement in his own life. He literally moves too fast in the film for time to catch up to him.
Mm.
Whereas the other characters in the film, even when there's a kind of origin story for Captain Hook, and it kind of again becomes this meditation on how do you choose who you want to be. Things happen to you in life, and you can choose how you respond to them. You can run away like Peter does, or you can choose to sort of grow with them like Hook eventually does, and even Wendy does on her own. And it's a really beautiful. I remember when I first saw it, the idea that came to my mind is that this is a poem on film. this is what a poem on film would look like and feel like. It's not supposed to make sense entirely. It's supposed to just kind of take you on this journey. And I really, really loved it. That's the film that I'm going to recommend to everybody to push for you guys to see. Number one for me was Ghostlight. It's a beautiful film about a man who has lost his son to suicide, to specifically a murder-suicide pact with his girlfriend, but the girlfriend survives and he doesn't. And it's this beautiful film because this guy is a construction worker and he's not able to process the grief until one day he, by accident, stumbles upon a street production of Romeo and Juliet, and he becomes a part of that street production totally by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this beautiful, you see this beautiful way in which this 400-year-old play gives him the words and the verbiage to be able to process what he's feeling about the death of his son, him and his whole family. It's about the power of art and how art can move us and transform us in beautiful ways. And it was my only 5-star film of the year, because I just walked out of that film and I was like, my God, this is what art can do when it's put on the highest level. And I just adored that film. So those are my 5. Again, so the way people remember: Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Death by Hanging, The Brutalist, Wendy, Ghostlight. So have at it, whichever one you guys have seen, if you want to talk about it.
I've seen none of them.
None of them? What about you, Mattias?
I haven't seen either. I've seen Beast of the Southern Wild, as his earlier movie was called. I love that one, so I'm going to look up Wendy.
If you love Beast of the Southern Wild, you'll love Wendy. You'll love
I don't
Wendy.
like hearing you say that because I know how we work. But yeah, I'm gonna look it up. It's gonna be my next project to find.
Well, I really want to see Wendy, because the way you described it, Michael, that sounds like what the core of Peter Pan, the book and the stage show, that sounds like what the core of that story is. And most adaptations do a very fun but basic children's adventure, and they leave out all of the core story bits.
And the way they reimagine the crocodile too is really interesting.
Okay.
And it's like, wow, okay, that's a magical kind of thing you did there.
I remember reading about it. I remember reading about it being released, and I was very, maybe not excited, but I have a friend who loves Peter Pan. And I've watched like 5-6 different versions of the story with him. And we both read about it, and then we heard nothing. We saw no reviews, we saw no trailers. I think I saw one teaser. As you said before, it just sort of vanished. I heard nothing about it.
Well, the problem is a month after it got released, COVID happened.
Oh,
so it got swallowed up in COVID. But
so that's why.
Yeah. All right. So you want to go next, Mattias?
Sure. My number 5 is September 5th. It's a movie about
September 5th.
Of the terrorist attack on the Olympics, which is appropriate when we record this. It is still tomorrow is the last day of the Olympics. This is 1972 in Munich, and there are some Muslim terrorists who take the Jewish Israeli team hostage, and the only film team for American television is the sports section, and they have to fight with the news section to who is going to report on it, but also they are there and they can see what's happening. So it's both an interior conflict between themselves and what they can do, but also between, are they good enough to, I mean, they like sports, they are sports people, so are they not intellectually smart enough, but can they carry this story without making it without giving it the depth and the heaviness that it needs. So it's very interesting in that aspect. And And then it's just filled with great actors. Peter Sarsgaard, who never became the big star that I think he should have been, but he's a brilliant character actor, and he's the leader of them. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. I've heard some people talk about it, saying that it's anti-Muslim, Islamophobic, which I disagree with at all, completely. I don't agree with that at all. It's just because they are the bad guys doesn't mean that this movie portrays them as horrible. I mean, the Muslims as horrible. These people are horrible, but just because they're Muslim doesn't mean that everybody is it. And so, yeah, that's my number 5. Now, my number 4 is I'm Still Here. I think it's an Argentinian film about, or Brazilian rather, about a woman who's married to a politician in Brazil in the 70s. It's based on a true story, and there is a coup, and these people take over the government, and everybody who's against them disappears, or most of them. And the family, they have like 4 kids. They are afraid that maybe our dad and my husband will disappear as well. So he has to tread very lightly. And every time, at one point in the beginning, the agents comes want to talk to him, interrogate him, and he has to be very nice about it. And he knows that if I see something wrong, I'm dead tomorrow. And then one day they have to bring him in, and he doesn't come back, and she doesn't know if she's dead. They keep telling her that, oh yeah, we're gonna release him next week. Oh, next week, a month, next month. The years goes by, and she never gives up because of her kids that are very small and young. So, and it just follows her to just eventually she just want to know what happened to him. She knows he's dead, but she just want to know what happened to him, and it's a story about, yeah. It's a really wonderful story. Not wonderful, but a wonderful movie. And this is made by the same guy who did Central do Brasil, which is a brilliant movie from the 90s, I think. My number 3 is Weapons, which is a fantastic comedy about a woman who... No, but it's again, I'm not sure I would call it a horror movie, but some people would, and I guess I kind of would too, considering the ending. But it's a story about one day in school, everybody in one class is gone, every kid in one class is gone, except one child, and the teacher is being blamed. And then we follow her, and then we follow some other characters until we find out what happens into a very, very extreme and very funny for some people ending. That ending is not for everyone, but I think it's hilarious. My number 2 is Flow, which is an animated movie about a cat who, during a flood, finds some friends in other animals and trying to survive, basically. And my number 1 is my only 5-star film last year, which was Memoir of a Snail, the second movie by a person who has made 2 5-star movies. Mary and Max were the first one. It's a story about a young girl who grows up in a, I guess you could say, abusive family, and she finds ways to survive and handle things, and it's not always the best ways to do it, but she does what she needs to survive. And I think I don't know how long is it. I think it's like 90 minutes long or something.
Yeah, his movies are usually never very long.
It's 94 94 minutes, and I think I cried for 72 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyone having anything? My number 3 was Weapons. I don't know if you heard that, Patrick, but yeah.
No, I heard. Luckily, I've got the Bluetooth, so even though I wasn't present, I was still present. I want to say with Weapons, the guy that made that movie was in a sketch show called The Whitest Kids You Know. And so the movie is very funny, and I think that surprises people because they go in thinking, oh, it's going to be a horror movie, And they come on like, I don't know if it was supposed to be funny. And I'm like, no, it's totally supposed to be funny when you think it's supposed to be funny. Also, there's a bit.
Would you recommend I see it, Patrick?
No,
No.
you're gonna hate it. But there's a part in the movie where the teacher has a tray of hot dogs, and
Yeah.
what else is he? It's like hot dogs and what? What is the other thing he's eating? It's like cookies or something. But it's a reference to the sketch show. He's in the sketch show. So the guy that made the movie had a friend who died. That did the sketch show with him, and this movie was like him dealing with grief and how people act while they're dealing with grief, because he was mourning the death of his friend. And his friend had this sketch in the show where he was a doctor and he was talking to this guy. He's like, "How many hot dogs did you eat?" And you go, 6 or 7 hot dogs. So him having the 6 or 7 hot dogs in the movie was a tribute to his friend. So I thought it fit in there. Also, Memoirs of a Snail, excellent movie. I agree with you. So good, and just it could have so easily been a very cynical movie. It deals with like lots of horrible things happening to this very nice character, but then the way it ties it all together, that like her optimism infects everybody around her, kind of like the opposite of Marty Supreme. But
correct.
well, I just really liked
Correct,
that
Patrick.
about Memoirs of a Snail, how like it took some very heavy subject matter that they could have just made a very depressing, very cynical film, and even though all these horrible things happen, like it still manages. You're crying the whole movie, like you said, but then like at the end of it, you still feel this like, but hey, everything might be terrible around you. Everyone you love may leave. All these bad things might happen, but maybe things will still be okay.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was just like it was realistic, but also hopeful at the same time.
Yeah, and for me, I love Mary and Max as well, but I don't see myself in any of those characters. I don't remember what the girl's name is, but or that the main characters.
Her name is Grace Poodle.
Yeah. That's pretty much me with some changes, of course. I'm not animated, for example. But,
you're not made of
and not Australian either.
No, that's true as well. No, but that is basically. I mean, I watched myself on screen. That is all of the things that she feels, I feel in some way, and that is. And I've seen other movies that nailed my personality, and I kind of hate those movies because there is something about it that doesn't work. This one was okay. I don't have the happy ending that she has, kind of, but. It's me basically, and that was both scary, refreshing, but touching, and also, yeah, it made it, like you said, it feels, you kind of get hopeful from it, and that is.
My baby is just waking up, so I want to be quick about this because I'm gonna deal with her for a moment, but I wanted to I actually thought this was a really good list, Mattias, and I've seen every film on here except for Weapons. I agree with you on Memoirs of a Snail. The thing that really kind of intrigued me about it, I feel like when you read a memoir, you're like, if you read, Al Pacino's autobiography, you need to leave the book with a feeling of how Al Pacino thought. Not just what happened in his life, but like, oh, this is how he processes information. This is how his brain works. And Memoir of a Snail is unique to me because I really felt that it wasn't just like, I understand how this character thinks. It was, I understand how the writer and the director think of this. I understand how he sees the world in a unique way. And I also loved the person who did Gracie's voice, who was also in Succession. I can't remember her name.
Sarah Snook.
Sarah Snook, she was really, really good. And I agree with you. I thought September 5th was really kind of underrated, frankly. I love the filming style of that, the kind of documentary style of filming where you're in the action with them. It follows them, the camera literally follows them from room to room as they go into different things. And I actually admired the guts of the film to stand up to like, how do I say this? They don't always make the right choice. And you definitely, you're thrown into the middle of the chaos where I left that film kind of going, oh, right, this is the first time that this has happened. They literally have to cut to commercial to just have 2 minutes to think about what to do. And I thought it was very, again, gutsy and kind of in a weird way, inspirational of the film to say, they're not going to always make the right choice. We're going to do you the honor and do them the honor of showing the mistakes they made in this impossible situation too, not just the right moves.
Yeah,
and similarly with I liked I'm Still Here for the same reason that I liked Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and I'm Still Here, I'm so glad it's on your list because it was almost on mine. It was kind of on that next tier, because I love the fact that when you start the film, you don't think the mother is going to be the one who's the social advocate, and the way she matures and grows into that role was very organic. And again, I keep using the word inspirational because it felt like the message of this film was you could be that woman too, that she grows into this advocacy role. She grows into becoming the civil rights lawyer that we find out she's become by the end of the film. And I loved that. It had an ordinary sense to it, a real sense of these are ordinary people doing the best that they can do in these times. And Flo, I admire the guts of anybody who's willing to make a silent film in 2024, 2025, whenever that film came out. And, you know, the animation style didn't totally work for me all the way through. There were times at which it kind of had that uncanny valley effect on me. But I was really impressed by how much of the story they could convey and how I wasn't confused by anything, even though there's no dialogue. I knew exactly what was going on. I knew who the characters were. I knew what their personality was, and all of it without words. It was a true silent film. It's what I love about silent film when it's done well. And this one was done very well. And hopefully I hope it will inspire other animators to kind of recognize that you can push the boundaries of animation in different ways. But so, yeah, that was a really good list, Mattias. I really, really liked that list a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to say about September 5th as well. You talked about they make mistakes, but it's also they show things like they have to negotiate with what's it called, the network, about we have 30 minutes to show now, no, but we have this, can we switch it around? So they have to do that thing as well. So I loved all of the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna let you take care of your baby now, so
yeah, I'm still listening though, so
yep. So since it's just the two of us, so we're gonna make sexual jokes in Swedish.
Oh no, you're back. That was a really funny joke.
So who wanna do?
I can do it because I also have Flow and Memoir of a Snail, so I might as well get to them as fast as possible. However, for my list, my fifth option for the best movie I watched in 2025, it stood between the movie that I ended up picking called 3 O'Clock High from 1987 and a Swedish psychological thriller called The Rabbit Man. But I have seen The Rabbit Man, I don't know, 3 times before. It's just that I've come around and reevaluated it. And I have found myself actually loving it instead of just liking it. But the movie I'm going with is 3 O'Clock High, and it's just a very, very, very funny movie. It's almost a parody of high school movies from the 80s, but it was made in the 80s. And it's absurd. The story is that the main character is he's not a geek, he's not a nerd, he's somewhere in between. And he's being challenged by a newcomer to the school who is this 7-foot-tall jock who challenges him to a fight out at the schoolyard. And he has until, 3 o'clock to get ready for the fight. And that's the story of the movie. And he wants nothing to do with the fight. He wants to back out of it. But everyone cheers him on. Everyone tells him that you need to do this. Why? And that's the premise of the movie. It's all these absurd things happen throughout the entire movie. And we get to know the characters a lot through it. And it's completely overdone and ridiculous. And I find it kind of funny how it's a parody of something while those movies were made. It takes element from something like Breakfast Club with some of the characters there. And they just turn it up like a 200 degrees or something. and has great editing and a great sense of pace. And I really like the main character because he's a pretty fully developed character that I really liked. And that was my pick for number 5. My pick for number 4 was Memoir of a Snail, and we have already exhausted every talking point about that movie. What I can add is it's not a totally hopeless story, but it's very dark, dreary, and grim. But it's just like Mary and Max. It's very, very, very funny. I mean, I laughed several times while watching it. I actually do think, compared to Mary and Max, I do think Memoir of a Snail is an even bleaker story. Because it touches upon... Because the main character, Grace, she gets separated from her brother when they are very young. And they get adopted by different parents. And she feels incredibly isolated throughout her entire childhood. And she has no idea what has happened to her brother until she eventually starts getting mail from him. And her parents they're not abusive in a physical sense. They aren't purposefully mean to her, but they are very emotionally distant. She feels like she's always alone at home. I mean, they could arrive, they are always away on trips. And whenever they come back home, they might as well have stayed away, because it doesn't matter if they are at home or not. She just feels completely alone. And that was touched me about the movie. Not that I feel alone, but that was the most palpable thing about it for me. Now, I didn't cry while watching it. I did cry while watching Mary and Max, which is why I think I prefer Mary and Max over it. But then Mattias said how he saw himself in Grace Poodle, and how that's basically him. So that might have been why I didn't cry. Next movie was Bring Her Back. And I believe did I talk to you about it, Patrick? In like a separate conversation?
We talked off the main feed.
Yeah, exactly.
What a movie.
Yeah, I really liked it because it has horror elements in it. It's more of a thriller about actually, they are also adoptees. They get it's a sister and brother. Their father dies, and they get adopted by a woman who has a son who lives at home. And it starts off pretty, not weird, but pretty stiff. I mean, in terms of the characters. They have to get used to this new environment. She seems nice, but they live very remotely. And her son is very strange. Eventually, they find that she has all sorts of strange things going around at her house and around her.
That's the way to put it.
And without spoiling too much, she has an ultimate plan. She wants the girl who is blind. She wants her for a very specific purpose. And I'm not going to say what it is, because you get to know why, I think, at the halfway point, maybe a little later. You get a reveal of why she wants her. And it's a great reveal. But what I like about it is the reason for her doing all this. She adopted this sibling couple for a very specific purpose, because she wants the daughter. But when she starts her plan and tries to execute her plan, she seems to do it because she's suffering from grief because her own daughter drowned. And at first, it was a movie that made me feel very sad while watching it when I reached the end. It's much sadder than it is horrifying, in my opinion. I just felt very depressed when the ending came, and I liked that feeling of depression, because in my eyes, that means the movie had a great effect on me while watching it. And it also made me question her as a character outside of what happens in the story, because, as I said before, she has a daughter that passed away that was also blind. She was the daughter's whole world, her sole caretaker. But she treated her daughter like, yeah, she's blind, she can't see, but she treated her as if she's like a doll that will break if someone breathes on her. And it made me question what the true nature of their relationship actually is. It made me reevaluate her character in a more sad way. So that's why I really liked it. And all the actors do a fantastic job. It's incredibly creepy. And what I do like about it is the directors. Their previous movie was called... what was the name of it?
Talk to Me.
Yeah, Talk to Me. That was a pretty damn good movie, but it was also... That's a true horror movie, and it has a gimmick. It's a very well-executed gimmick, but it's still a gimmick. Bring Her Back doesn't have any gimmicks at all. It's a very powerful story of not being able to let go, because the mother, she never reevaluates herself or why she's doing this. She convinces herself that she's doing this because she loves her dead daughter, or whatever, but she's never able to actually come to terms with having lost her at all. And that to me was very, very powerful. And let's see, the other was, the second movie was a French movie called Baxter, that I just watched one random evening with my father, actually. It's on Netflix, and I think it was released in 1989. It's just a random edition from Netflix. And the entire movie is told from a dog's perspective, called Baxter. But it's not. It's a great concept. The basic story is that we follow this dog. We can hear his inner thoughts. He's always monologuing about how he perceives the world around him. And the movie is about the different owners that he has and how he's moved around from one place to another. What I like about the movie, that sounds like a kind of funny story. It's a deeply cynical, bitter, mean story. Because Baxter he's the storyteller of the movie. He's deeply cynical, he hates everyone, and he almost purposefully kills one of his owners because he hates her. She always locks him in the house, and he more or less trips her while she's walking down the stairs. He's not a full-blown murderer or anything, but the movie plays around with that. But it's he's got such a great, cynical, bitter sense of humor. And something he repeats throughout the movie several times is that he's so miserable, whether he's with his owners or if he's alone. And he longs back to the darkness before he was born. Ironically, that's the only glimpse of light he has going on in his life. He almost just wants to die. That's his ultimate mission. And it's as I said before, it's a very fascinating movie. It's very dark, it's very dreary, but it's also kind of funny because you don't always follow Baxter. You follow some of the other owners outside of his perspective, and the movie paints a very interesting picture of the relationship between a pet and the owner. Like, what is the pet actually thinking? Now, this is the worst case scenario you could possibly have. But it's a highly recommended movie. I really liked it. It's a dark, not comedy, but it's a very dark, dreary story that has some dark humor in it. I could always tell you that one of his owners should be the perfect match. It's a 12-year-old kid, a 12-year-old boy. I mean, what would be better for a dog, at least? Which should be pretty good. The only problem is that the kid is a neo-Nazi, and he wants to train the dog to use as an attack hound to attack people he doesn't like, and he's abusing the dog. So that paints a picture of what...
That sounds really interesting. Sorry. I'm really interested in this film.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Put it in the chat.
What?
Put it in the chat when we're done.
Sure, I can put a link to it. It's just very interesting, but be prepared for a very melancholy, dark, but still kind of funny story. And let's see. Well, for my number one is Flow. I just loved it. And I watched it in a theater. And I know what people are saying about the animation. It's very simplistic. the textures are not always there. Some scenes look unfinished, and that doesn't mean they are. It just means that the textures and the lighting is very simple. But what the movie made me feel, as I actually cried like 3 or 4 times, not because it's sad, but because it's so beautiful. And I rarely cry while watching a movie because it's beautiful. Usually I cry because it's sad or it's touching. But I cried because it invoked such strong emotions from how beautiful it was. And I also really liked how it's a very simple story about the cat is a very isolated person, but he sort of finds his own people in these other animals. And what I like about, as Michael said, it's basically a silent movie. There are no talking. The only thing we hear is, of course, the Foley and sound design. And the animals themselves, they screech and they yell, but they don't talk. But all of the animals, they form very detailed, or at the very least defined personalities. I know what their personalities are, and I know what they feel. I know what they want to express. My favorite scene in the movie, well, I actually have 2. My very favorite scene in the movie has ended up becoming one of my favorite scenes ever in all of the movies I've ever watched in my entire life. And it's when the crane flies away. I think you know what scene I'm talking about. When the crane leaves. I started crying while watching that because the combination of the music and what's actually happening in the scene. That's the case with this movie. It's very much, most of the story is underneath the surface. But that scene made me cry really, really hard because it's just so beautiful. And my second favorite scene is there's a scene where they fight about something on the boat. And the only one who's steering this small ship is the crane. And there is a lemur who wants him to turn back because he dropped something in the ocean. And he nags the crane about turning back. And eventually the crane, it's still animalistic, but in a very human way, he just sort of pushes the steering wheel to the side. Like, fuck it, you can do it yourself. I don't care anymore. It's a very, without any dialogue whatsoever, you know exactly what they feel and what they want. And it's a very unique movie too. Because, the most impressive thing about it is it's made in Blender, a free animation software program. And it's not the first movie that has been made like this in a publicly aware software. Jimmy Neutron was the same thing, like 25 years before. But you still had to buy that software. This is free. Blender is free. Now you can still buy assets for it. But Blender is completely free. And they were able to produce this, I think it's a masterpiece in what it's trying to do. So I love it. So that's my number 1 pick. Let's see, I'm gonna try. No, I can't do that because I'm actually recording. I'm gonna have to do it later. I was gonna add Baxter, like a link to it.
You can add it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's time for Patrick.
All right, I'm going to pull up my notes here. So for number 5, I've got The Chainsaw Man, the movie. This is, of course, a feature-length film based off the anime series. Now, I always love when animation goes from like the small screen, and then it gets like a really big budget and gets to be on the big screen, and it's got like a really high quality animation. And this movie delivers that, because I don't know if you guys have seen the anime at all. It's basically this guy that has like a ripcord in his chest that he can pull out, and then chainsaws come out of his hands. His head turns into a giant chainsaw, and he fights like demon monsters in Japan. It's just completely absurd. And there's a part where he's battling this woman who she can turn into bombs, like missiles. Like her hands, her whole body, her head, any part of her can come off and blow up. And so he's fighting her through the city as she's detonating bombs and blowing up buildings. And then at one point he's riding on top of a shark with his chainsaws like cord through its mouth, riding it across the rooftops.
I guess we have to be entertaining now.
You know what that sounds like? Have you guys ever seen Guns Akimbo?
No, I've been wanting to see it now for many years.
Yeah, like it kind of sounds a lot like that too. I remember that movie being really fun in that way, and he has guns for arms.
Yeah, the guns for hands.
Yeah, guns for hands. But I was
the
saying your movie reminded me of that.
Kind of, yeah, like the energy. Like it's just like you need to watch the anime. That's only like one season, it's like 13 episodes, to see the movie, because the movie does build upon the emotional arc that the show's set up. So you can't just go straight into the movie. Like you will be able to follow the plot, but like the emotional beats won't hit the same way if you haven't seen the movie first. But it's really cool. For number 4, I have Sorry Baby, which was this like indie movie. I think it was the director's first time she wrote, directed in it, stars in it. And it follows a woman who goes over to her college professor's house, and the camera stays outside the house the whole time. And then we time lapse through it, and then she leaves the house. Like basically it's like one shot of this house. Camera's like not moving, but we see like it goes from like daytime to nighttime, and then she leaves the house, and then she's telling her friend that she was assaulted by this professor. And then the movie just explores her coming to terms with what happened, trying to find her new normal after this happened, the ways that people try to be supportive but still can't quite be there for her, and just like the experience of like just all the different ways that these things happen, and like it's just a very well done movie, and it's got moments of hope, even though it's got a darker subject matter. And the ending, why it's called Sorry Baby, was just so impactful. I just thought it was such a good movie. And it's one of those movies that's like very like slice of life. Like it's very shot very realistically, if that makes sense, For number 3, I've got Twinless. I don't know if anyone saw that one. It's about this guy whose twin is killed in a hit and run. And so he goes to a support group for other people that have lost a twin. And then he falls in love with this guy, or meets this guy who was this guy said like is like also lost a twin, and they end up like creating this like friendship and bonding over both of them having lost a twin, and their relationship that develops. And then there's some other twists and turns in it that I'm not going to give up. But it was a very funny movie, but it's also like the drama bits hit, comedy bits hit. It's one of those films that's like a true dramedy, because it is as much a drama as it is a comedy, and not like it's a drama and there's like a couple of funny bits. Like it is very funny at the same time as being very dramatic, and it's just very beautifully shot for like a drama film. Like it's got really cool scene composure. Absolutely loved it. For number 2, I got One Battle After Another, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. I love Paul Thomas Anderson films, and I talked before about having lost my father the year before. And this felt very much like a movie me and him would have gone to go see together and just like love. Like he would have probably been texting me right now, do I think Leonardo DiCaprio is going to win the Oscar? And what are the chances of this film winning Best Picture? And just, what is it, Mike? You saw the movie, right? What is the other guy's name in it? Not Leonardo DiCaprio.
Benicio.
No, not Benicio. The other
Sean
guy.
Penn.
Sean Penn. Sean Penn plays this like this racist guy who's trying to get in this organization called like the Santa Claus Men. Basically, like they're basically a white supremacist group, but he loves black women, and so he has slept with this black woman. And so the whole time the organization is trying to find out if he's ever had dealings with like black women, and so he's trying to like play this con about like, no, I've never been with a black woman. But then they're doing all this. So all this stuff's going on, and as far as it being a dramatic movie, it's also very funny. Like DiCaprio just plays it great, and there's so many funny moments in the movie. And then just like, it's also just a poignant film about fatherhood and generational trauma passing on to your children, and how like you live a life before you have children, and then you change that life once you've had children, and then you don't want to bring that life to your children, but sometimes it just gets passed on, whether you want it to or not. And then lost my place. My last movie, my number 1 movie of the year, was Sinners. I just thought this movie was absolutely fantastic. I love the way that it used, vampires and its setting to like explore these deeper things of like culture and music and identity. And then like it's a horror movie kind of, but all that plays second fiddle to this more important story. These two brothers trying to build their legacy and build this like bar for the Black community to have, and like basically they know that it was being sold to them by racists, so they don't even know how long they're going to have this property or how well their plan's going to work. And then of course vampires show up in the second half of the film. It plays as an allegory, and it's just a very well done movie. And also the film is just, there's just some shots in the movie that are just absolutely incredible in the way that they just tell their story visually. So those are my top 5.
I have a question first about Sorry Baby. The way you talked about it, do you hear me? It seems you just stopped. It's like...
No, I mean, I'm just listening.
No, we want to hear what you have to say.
What? Sorry, the way you talked about it, it reminded me of the movie Doubt with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Meryl Streep. Do you know it?
No, yeah, I know Doubt.
Am I on the same?
No, like in Doubt, I think that film was a lot more about like, you know, there is like a will, like, did it happen? Did it not happen? There's a lot of like trauma there. Like in this movie, like we know that the thing happened that she says happened. Okay. The thing that's interesting about it is that like she does not use like the word rape, except for there's one time where it's like another character uses it, and it's like an important plot point to like the way that she frames it, because it's just like how she's dealing with it. And it ends up, I think it's being used by a doctor when talking about it. He's just like no tableside manner. He's just like very blunt about it. And there's just kind of this idea of like, you know, she's trying to like come to terms with this thing that happened, you know, and you're like, but people know about this guy that did it. And so there's also like that element to it. And then like, so in Doubt, I feel like there is, you know, quote unquote doubt. Where in this movie, like there is no doubt to what happened. Like we know what happened, but the film doesn't want to just be about that, if that makes sense.
Can I? How do you? You said that when the thing happens, the camera stays outside. How do you know that it happened? Is it because the movie makes sure that? I'm just, if it's a plot point that is a spoiler, don't say anything. But
no, I just think we just know that it happens because we know to trust our narrator of the movie, okay. Like the main character. Like yeah, there's nothing that they do to make us feel like she's not. Like, did you see the movie After the Hunt? Or know about that movie?
I wanted to, but it never. I don't think it came to a local cinema.
It's interesting because it came out the same year, and it's similar, where it's like a student visits a teacher after hours. But that film does play with like we never see the event happen, so we don't, and we're never given like a definitive like it happened. And anytime like they go in a room, someone will be like, what do you think happened? And the character will be like, I think this, and then we'll like not feel their full response or something. Because that film was playing with the idea of like cancel culture, all these different things. Whereas that film was trying to be ambiguous with it. This film felt more like it happened, but we don't need to see it happen because that's just not going to be. It's just not going to be. Not that it would ever be pleasant, but you and I mean, like they don't want to make that the central focus.
Yeah, it's the focus on her aftermath of her saying what happened.
Exactly, like her dealing with the trauma.
That's very interesting. And then the other one I've seen on your list is One Battle After Another, and I'm one of those people who don't get it. I think it's the first. I don't know if you could say act, but the before the time jump. If you know what I mean, for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I think that's hilarious. I think it's extremely funny. And then I don't care. I lose interest for the main story. I mean, the actors are good. I'm not that big on Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm usually not. I think he's a good actor. I don't think he's a brilliant actor. But it's just that I don't really care about that story that much, and that's my issue for it. I don't think it's funny anymore. I think the mom character to the daughter that is kidnapped, that's basically the story. I think she's the best part of the movie, and when she's gone, it's not interesting anymore. If you feel my drift. That's what I have to say about it.
I'm also
kind of
gonna
agree
be
with you about One Battle After Another. I thought it was really funny, and I thought like the way I describe it is to other people is like it's a satire with only villains, no heroes. Everyone is sort of equally lampooned on either side. The Republicans basically are racist, but they don't understand that they're racist. They don't know why they believe what they do. But on the other hand, the rebels are rebels without a cause. They don't know what they're doing either. You know, you don't want, and even like the DiCaprio character, I got out of the movie and I realized I wouldn't want him as a father. Like he's not, again, and I think that's intentional. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is lampooning everybody. But
I mean,
and I did find,
I
sorry,
disagree.
Patrick, I did find it funny, but the part that I lacked, and this might be a little bit of what Mattias is pointing to, is that I think it would have been I didn't feel like there was a character I could emotionally kind of ground in. And so it felt very adrift after 2 hours. I felt very like, okay, I'm caring less and less about what's happening because there hasn't been a character that I can kind of settle into. And so,
great.
Patrick, I'm so glad you brought up Sorry Baby, because you're the one who introduced me to that film. And I feel like this is a theme with a lot of my films that on this list and on Mattias's list, which is that I love the relationship between the two women. And I love the ordinariness and the freshness of that relationship, the way they talk to each other. And I even love that, I think in a weird way, the director and writer of the film, I think she would take what I'm about to say as a badge of honor, because I didn't like every second of that film, every clip of that film. And I think she would take it as a badge of honor because, again, I think she's trying to show this is how ordinary people get through trauma. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's revelatory. Sometimes it's full of hatred. Sometimes it's full of things that you like, and sometimes it's full of things that you don't like. Sometimes you're just born and nonplussed by it. And again, I guess I'm finding, as I talk about these films, I'm very drawn to stories where ordinary people do extraordinary things, and that kind of thing. I love that. And then Sinners, you hit the nail right on the head, Patrick. I loved the music, the choreography of it. I loved Delroy Lindo in the film, and Michael B. Jordan as well. And I love the idea that they put the conversation about equality in the mouth of the vampires. That it's the vampires saying, hey, you have to transcend your humanity if you want equality. That it's not going to happen if you guys choose to remain human. And I think I'm not sure I agree with that idea, but it is an interesting idea. And I found myself thinking about that as the film was over. I was like, that's interesting that he put the talk of equality in the mouth of the vampire. And there was one other, I didn't see the Chainsaw film, although that does sound like it's actually a lot of fun. So I may actually see that one. But there was another film of yours that Twinless, which I also haven't seen, and that looks fun as well. So I think those two films are going to be ones that are on my list.
Are we gonna do some honorable mentions or something?
I'm back.
Movies that almost. Are we gonna talk about movies?
I was gonna say something about One Battle more. Sorry, but I think there are great scenes. There are the ending of Sean Penn's character is hilarious, and there are other scenes that I think is great. It's just that, it was something about it that I just didn't care for the last part of the film, basically. That was
okay. In that case, I might as well be a contrarian too.
After Another too. The ending I thought was unnecessarily sweet. I didn't think he earned the right for that letter at the end.
See, that's where I disagree, because I don't feel like he was lampooning everything. I think that the whole thing was that, like, Leonardo DiCaprio stood up, and it was the parent that stood up, and he was like doing the best he can. Like, he has to leave beside this life that he had found himself in and sacrifice his whole identity to be this parent, and now he's trying to do his best he can as a single father, and then a scene where like he's now having to remember his old life to protect his daughter. And you're like, what's the code word? And he's like, I don't know the code word, dude. I just got high. Just tell me the code so I can get my daughter back. And he's like, I can't give you that code. Stop. What's he say? Like, stop verbally assaulting me through the phone. I need my safe place. He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, that was just such like a funny scene to me. And I feel like at the end of the movie, like it is sweet because he sacrificed so much. He lost everything. He lost his wife. He lost his lifestyle. He lost to be a better father for her. And I think at the end of the movie, it's like he did earn that. He never stopped trying to be the best father he could for her. And sometimes, you know, like you have a kid and it's like, I wasn't ready for this, or like, you know, like this is how I used to live my life. And like now you have to make those changes and you just do the best you can. I guess I related to Leonardo DiCaprio's character a bit, just in the sense of like,
because you always get high.
I'm constantly losing my children and then not knowing where they are because I'm high. No, but just like, you know, like that sense of like, you know, when your kids show up, it's like you don't, because there's that scene where she's like, I'm going to still live my life. I'm still going to be who I am. I'm still going to do all these things. And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, you have a kid. Like, you can't do this anymore. You know, like, and he takes on that responsibility. And I just think that, like, he's flawed and he falls off the roof. And that is just, even as I'm talking about it, I'm just like, it was so funny. So I disagree that it's earned and that they lampoon everybody, because I think DiCaprio is a good guy. And I think that's why, like, the daughter at the end of the movie, you know, doesn't tell him the thing that she could tell him. I'm not going to spoil.
But that might be we never thought ending this, do we? But that's also the thing for me. I mean, when I went in to see it, I'd heard that all of the right-wing people in America hated this movie. And I'm not a right-wing person, but I don't care about American politics. So it might be that thing as well, that aspect of it is not for me. I'm not there, so that is lost on me. So maybe that is a reason why it doesn't resonate the same way for me, because I don't care about American politics. So it's one of it's a fine movie, and I love everything I've seen by Paul Thomas Anderson. But this one is on the lower tier for me. But yeah.
I think that if it didn't make me feel so connected to my father, like, this is a movie about a father. This is a movie I would have seen with my dad and we would have loved, like Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, those are like my dad's like trio of guys, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I maybe would not have had it so high up on my list, but just watching it made me feel close to him. And then also just like that father aspect of the story just really put it up there for me.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right, Ben, honorable mentions. Let's go.
Okay, should I start, I guess? Well, I have 5 honorable mentions, but I'm going to be very brief. Let's see.
Be hard for you.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be impossible. 3 hours later, and I'm still going to keep it brief. Well, my 5th one from honorable mentions is a movie called Christmas Evil from 1988 or something. It's a Christmas-themed sort of horror movie. And on the surface, it's very typical. It's about the story isn't totally typical. It's about a man who, due to a past trauma in his childhood, becomes obsessed with Christmas. Unhealthily obsessed with Christmas. And he wants nothing else but to dress up as Santa. And make people happy, which isn't unhealthy. And he works at a company that makes toys, and he finds out that the toys they were originally supposed to donate a large sum of money to a children's hospital, but instead the CEOs, they pocket the money instead, and he then decides to kill every one of them because he hates them for it. Understandable. That's his motives, and that's what the movie is about. Now, the most impressive thing about the movie is it's cheap, it's very low budget, but the director manages to find different ways of telling the story in an interesting way. The main character has a brother that he sometimes converses with, and they have some interesting dialogues, which clues the audience in what might have happened in their childhood. Now, they have one scene that shows explicitly what happened, and that's the worst scene in the movie. But before that, it's very well done. And there's also for a low-budget movie, there's also a scene where the only thing the characters are doing, it's at a news station, and they are reporting a Santa maniac who's killing people with an axe, which is the main character. And all the scene is just giving exposition about where he is and what he's doing. But the director finds a way to actually shoot it in an interesting way. The camera follows them. And then someone speaks out of frame, the camera turns, and then the camera turns to the left, someone speaking there, and then it orbits around them, and then it ends with the final character, which sounds very bare bones and simple, but it's just, any other movie would have just had like 4 or 5 different shots of them talking and then cut between them. And I was so impressed that they kept the momentum, they kept my interest, and they managed to do this. It's almost like a Spielberg way of tracking the shot, and I was very impressed. And it's a pretty good movie. It's absurd, and the story gets even more absurd during the end. Although I do like the very, very end. I think it ends on a very strong note. My fourth honorable mention is a thriller called Eye of the Needle from 1982, I believe. And it takes place during World War II, and it's about a spy on the German side who relays intel from all of the various places he visits, and he visits those places he's undercover, basically. He speaks perfect American English because he's partly American. And it's about how he fails one mission, and suddenly he's on the run, and he takes shelter at a couple's house who lives they live at a rock somewhere at the far east somewhere, and they run a farm, and he takes up lodging in their cabin. And the movie is basically this very intense thriller, because the audience, we know what he is, but the couple doesn't. And he sort of falls in love with the wife, because the husband he has an accident earlier in the movie and becomes handicapped from the waist down, so he can't perform as well on the farm or do his job as well anymore. So the spy sort of takes his place as the man in the house. And the most interesting thing about the movie is that, at the very least when I watched it, I question, does he actually care about her? Is this spy capable of caring for her? Because early in the movie, at the earliest point in the movie, we see him murdering someone because they found out who he is. So does he actually love her? And the movie plays around with that, and it's very interesting. It's a very tense thriller. My third honorable mention is a movie called Anguish from 1987. It starts off as a very standard sort of Jello slasher movie about well, it's not that ordinary. It's about a man who works at what do you call someone? Someone who, if you need glasses, you go to these people. What are they called?
An
yeah, whatever you were trying to say. Yeah, he works as that. And he's being controlled by his mother, who believes she is a witch, at the very least. And she wants his customers' eyes, especially the women. She wants him to get their eyes. So it's a slasher in the way that it's shot like a typical Italian giallo, with the leather gloves and the lighting, the green lighting and all of that. And the first half of the movie is like that, a typical slasher, and it has this crazy concept, but it's done well. But at the halfway point, the movie takes a step back, and then you realize, oh, it's actually about this. And I'm not going to say what it is at all. It's not at all the type of movie you expect it to be. So the initial first half of the movie is a lie. And I'm not going to tell you any more than that. The second movie is an animated movie called Robot Dreams, which I loved. It's a either Spanish or Portuguese animated movie about it takes place in an anthropomorphic New York where all of the inhabitants are animals that walk on two legs, and the main character, who is a dog, lives a very lonely life. He barely has any friends and he feels lonely. So he decides to order a robot, because you can do that in this world. He decides to order a robot to get companionship. And it's partly a love story. It's a story about how couples, they grow close and then they move on, or they get separated even if they don't want to, because they do get separated very early on in the movie. And the movie takes this, it thinks very much outside the box when it comes to that. Despite the absurd way it tells the story, despite the absurd characters, it manages to tell a very, in my opinion, very touching, deep story about relationships. In this case, it's romantic ones, but it's still a story about relationships, and it's beautifully animated, it's very funny, and I really like the characters, and it's very strange, which automatically means that I'm going to like it. For my first honorable mention, it stood between The Rabbit Man and the one I ended up picking, which is a anime actually from 1988 or something, called Royal Space Force, The Wings of Hanemes or whatever. Royal Space Force, that's the most usual title you can find it under. And it's basically it takes place in a sort of steampunk meets ordinary sci-fi world. And it's about this slacker who doesn't really have much going for him. Still, he manages to get himself a job as an astronaut for what is this world's answer to NASA. And what the story is, it's a movie about the achievements of mankind, technological achievements. Because the movie takes place, in the story, there is also a war going on. Like, these rebels are trying to push back where the main character lives, the government. And it's kind of similar to the Miyazaki movie, The Wind Rises, how the planes that he's constructing are obviously used for war. And in this movie, Royal Space Force, we know that the government isn't going to use this technology for traveling into space for anything meaningful, probably. But it's still about achieving that dream, even if you know the technology, or that the future means are going to be used for something entirely different. Okay, we'll see you. That's what I really liked about it.
That sounds very interesting. At the very least, I'm kind of 50-50 on anime myself. Like, I either love it or I kind of hate it.
I mean, well, it depends. I mean, I really liked Sinners, despite, having Irish people in it. It's still a pretty good movie. So, no, I'm just joking. Yes. I know what you mean. I mean, I love animation, whether it's from any country, really. So.
Yeah. I have two honorable mentions that I want to mention.
Yes.
One on the good side and one on the bad side. On the good side, it was A Complete Unknown, which was the Bob Dylan biopic with Timothée Chalamet. I thought he was really great in the film himself. I thought Edward Norton was great as Bob Seger, his friend. And I really liked the idea that they did a biographical adaptation of just one part of Dylan's life. And I like the idea of tackling, sometimes you need to own who you are in this moment of your life, not always in every moment, and kind of recognizing that you might need to change for who you are and adapt. Like, who you were worked when you were 20 and it doesn't work when you're 30. And so I really liked the way it kind of tackled him changing his identity in that movie on the positive side. On the negative side, Mattias, it's yours. You asked to talk about this. It's Anora. I hated that film. I hated it so much, and Patrick hated it too. He would love to be here. I found that character so annoying, and all her friends so grating on every last nerve in my body.
Wasn't that the point? I haven't seen it, so I can't say. But isn't the point that she's going to be annoying and yeah?
Oh, it may very well be, and the problem is I hate people that are like that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be with her. I didn't want to be in the room with her. I was like, I know people like you who talk like you, and I don't want to be in rooms with them either.
Yeah, I get that.
So for me, that was the honorable mention on that side.
So should I have three very quickly. I'm not gonna prat along like Benjamin. I have three. First one is Bellman and True. It's a British thriller, I guess you could say, from 1987 about a man who is taking care of his ex-wife's son. She has left them, and the son is just waiting for her to show up. But the man knows that has no interest in being a parent, so he takes care of him. And he's basically forced into doing. He used to be a criminal, and he's forced into doing a last job in order to repay some debt. And the movie it's about how he handles those situations. It's a very well acted and well crafted film with Bernard Hill, who played King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings. Another is Some Guy Who Kills People. It's a thriller comedy, maybe horror, but I don't think it's very horror-ish. It's about a guy who kills people, basically. It's very funny, and it's very very stylistic and very amusing. I really enjoyed it. And the last one is She's Out of My League, which is romantic comedy that I thought was going to be one of those cheap stuff that you have seen 100 times, but this one actually was very funny and very sweet and very charming from 2010. So yeah, that's my three honorable mentions.
It is the first time someone has mentioned She's Out of My League, at least that I've experienced in maybe 10 years. I'm so happy that you saw that film and that you liked it. I don't remember too much about it, but I remember thinking it was just a really fun film.
Yeah, I agree. It's very simple premise, but it's very fun, and I enjoyed it very much. So it's time to wrap up.
I think
Patrick
so.
is not here.